Ladies and gentlemen, there's a reason India stands tall, unshaken, undefeated. It's not just about history or numbers. It's about mindset. India doesn't break, it bends, it adapts. Every time the world counts it out, India rises stronger, louder, prouder. This country isn't just surviving. It's redefining global power through grit, innovation, and unstoppable belief. The West may have had systems, but India has soul, that relentless energy. It's in every student, every startup, every village. You can't defeat a place where purpose lies deeper than fear. India isn't waiting for permission. It's already leading. India's true power radiates from an inner core that refuses to fracture under pressure. A collective mindset forged in centuries of struggle, adaptation, and reinvention. It is easy to measure nations by GDP graphs, defense budgets, or export figures, yet those metrics whisper only part of the story. The soul of India resides in an intangible reservoir of resilience that shows itself whenever crisis looms. From monsoon floods submerging fields to financial shocks rippling across global markets, the response is seldom panic but problem solving, an instinctive pivot toward collective action that quiets chaos and turns it into momentum. This conviction is seeded by a civilizational memory that predates modern borders. India's epics, folklore, and philosophical traditions tell stories of heroes who conquer not by brute force alone, but through intellect, devotion, and perseverance. Arjuna asks Krishna for clarity in the chaos of battle. The answer is not retreat, but enlightened action. Such narratives train generations to view adversity as a crucible, not a coffin. When colonial rule attempted to reduce India to a market for raw materials, the freedom struggle reframed oppression as an opportunity to rediscover selfhood, spinning khadi cloth into a symbol of economic autonomy and moral defiance. Post-independence, this mindset did not dissipate, it morphed. In the famines of the 1960s, scientists and farmers launched the Green Revolution, blending indigenous knowledge with global science to triple wheat yields. In the economic stagnation of the late 1980s, policymakers dismantled the license Raj and unleashed a wave of liberalization that allowed a middle class to bloom. Each pivot was driven by an implicit faith that problems are invitations to innovate. The result today is a demographic of 4 billion people who, despite uneven infrastructure, share a near-universal expectation that tomorrow must outshine yesterday. Purpose, dharmic, or secular threads through these endeavors. While Western discourse often frames success as individual conquest, Indian thought locates it in collective uplift, an idea compressed in the Sanskrit phrase Sarv Bhavantu Sukhina, may all beings be happy. This ethos shapes social enterprises that design low-cost cataract surgeries and female-run self-help groups that move millions out of debt traps. It animates diaspora engineers who wire remittances back to fund local scholarships, and it fuels startups that engineer solar lanterns for villages unlit by the grid. The impossibility of defeat lies also in pluralism. India houses every major religion and dozens of official languages, yet chaos does not translate into collapse. The ability to argue fiercely and still share a cup of chai afterward is a social technology honed over millennia. It fosters a marketplace of ideas where Bollywood incorporates Sufi poetry, where Carnatic ragas inspire jazz fusion, and where Parliament debates policy in a cacophony that, paradoxically, prevents authoritarian silence. Dissent is oxygen, not poison, and that oxygen feeds the embers of reinvention. Education has become the catalytic converter of this mindset. Government initiatives like Digital India and private ventures stream interactive lessons to regions once isolated by geography. Universities collaborate with industry to create curriculum that leapfrogs obsolete manufacturing age skills and dives directly into AI ethics, biotechnology, and renewable energy storage. A student in Ladakh, using open source material, can prototype a drone to track snow leopard populations, while a retired teacher in Kerala records Malayalam grammar tutorials for global learners. Economically, the mindset manifests as Jugad, the celebrated art of frugal innovation. Rural mechanics convert diesel engines into affordable irrigation pumps. Medical startups devise portable ECG devices priced for community clinics. Even multinational companies operating in India adopt this ethos, redesigning products for extreme affordability and then exporting those designs back to developed markets starved for cost-effective solutions. This reversal of innovation flow dismantles the old core periphery hierarchy and installs India as a crucible of practical ingenuity. Geopolitically, India exercises strategic autonomy rooted in civilizational confidence. It navigates alliances without pledging fealty, purchasing defense equipment from multiple blocs while championing a multipolar order. In climate negotiations, it pledges net zero by 2070, yet defends the developmental rights of its poor, arguing that equity must undergird sustainability. The ability to say no to both tutelage and intimidation arises from a populace convinced that dignity is non-negotiable. Technology serves as both amplifier and equalizer for this mindset. Cheap digital payments allow a street hawker to accept microtransactions with the same ease as a metropolitan retail chain, erasing barriers between informal and formal economies. Aadhaar biometric identity illustrates a national ambition to extend state services to the last person in line. Startups leveraging vernacular voice recognition bring e-commerce to elders who never learned English, converting linguistic diversity into market depth. Culturally, soft power emanates through yoga, Ayurveda, cinema, and cuisine, weaving India into daily routines across continents. When a commuter in London listens to a Bollywood track on a playlist or a Silicon Valley executive begins her day with Surya Namaskar, a subtle shift occurs. India transforms from distant geography to intimate presence. Challenges persist: corruption, infrastructure gaps, pollution, gender disparities. But the unbreakable mindset refuses fatalism. Grassroots activists deploy right-to-information petitions to expose graft. Citizen science apps crowdsource air quality data that pressure municipalities to regulate emissions. Women's collectives lobby for inheritance rights and win. Each victory, however local, validates the doctrine that systemic change is possible when ordinary people act with extraordinary resolve. The pandemic provided a crucible that tested and affirmed this doctrine. Migrant workers walked hundreds of kilometers during lockdowns, highlighting vulnerabilities, yet communities organized relief kitchens, and technologists built vaccine booking platforms at unprecedented scale. By mid-2021, India conducted one of the largest vaccination drives in history, leveraging its pharmaceutical capacity to supply not only domestic demand but global South partners. Diaspora networks play a crucial role in this feedback loop. Engineers in California mentor students in Chennai via virtual hackathons. Doctors in the UK fund tele-ICU projects in Bihar. Remittances exceed $100 billion marks annually, yet more valuable is the intellectual capital repatriated through mentorship and investment. Success stories abroad serve as proof points that Indian talent competes at the highest echelons, reinforcing domestic confidence and motivating policy support. Media ecosystems, though polarized, still function as arenas where ideas collide and refine. Independent digital outlets fact-check officials. Stand-up comedians satirize societal hypocrisies. Regional cinema challenges Bollywood's dominance by telling hyper-local stories that resonate. Nationally, this decentralized content production ensures that no single gatekeeper controls the national conversation, safeguarding the pluralist oxygen necessary for resilience. Sports add another dimension. Cricket remains a unifying spectacle, but rising stars in badminton, wrestling, weightlifting, and track demonstrate that aspiration is diversifying. When Neeraj Chopra hurled his javelin to Olympic gold, rural youth identified with his Haryana village roots, believing that global podiums are accessible without urban privilege. Government initiatives invest in grassroots facilities, acknowledging that athletic excellence fuels national morale and global recognition. Urbanization accelerates, but with experiments in sustainability. Smart city projects integrate renewable energy microgrids, sewage to biogas plants, and vertical gardens on metro pillars. Citizens groups in Indore and Surat show how participatory budgeting and waste segregation can transform sanitation. Such micro successes propagate through social media, inspiring replication in hundreds of municipal bodies. Language diversity, once perceived as a barrier, has become an asset in the AI era, where datasets in Hindi, Bengali, Marathi, Telugu, and dozens of others train models that serve markets ignored by English-centric platforms. This multilingual richness positions India to shape global standards for inclusive AI, and initiatives aim to create a public digital corpus that democratizes language technology development. The informal sector, often labeled a drag on productivity, in fact represents a laboratory of adaptive business models. Dabbawalas in Mumbai deliver hundreds of thousands of lunchboxes daily with near-perfect accuracy using a color-coded system honed without digital tools. A marvel taught at global business schools. Such examples illustrate the principle that complexity can be tamed through simple, human-centered design. At the philosophical level, non-dualistic thinking in Advaita Vedanta and the Buddhist principle of interdependence seep into contemporary dialogues on systems thinking and sustainability. Entrepreneurs speak of karma capital, and investors evaluate dharmic returns, integrating ethics into bottom lines. The mindset's durability also stems from humor and celebration woven into hardship. Festivals erupt even after crop failures, neighbors drape homes with lanterns after job losses, and memes flourish in political turmoil. Laughter acts as social glue, dissipating despair and building psychological immunity. Family structures, though evolving, still provide safety nets. Joint families pool resources for education and health care, cushioning individuals from market shocks. In rural India, self-help groups of women, often illiterate by formal standards, manage microcredit at totaling billions. They negotiate with banks, influence local governance, and spearhead sanitation campaigns. These quiet revolutions undermine stereotypes of rural passivity and female marginalization, reinforcing the thesis that empowerment seated in mindset catalyzes material transformation. Artisanal traditions survive globalization by hybridizing techniques. Block printers in Rajasthan collaborate with Scandinavian designers, weaving heritage into contemporary fashion that sells in Paris boutiques. Craft clusters use e-commerce platforms to bypass middlemen, commanding fair prices and revitalizing local economies. Legal infrastructure, though slow, proves responsive under civic pressure. The Supreme Court's public interest litigation mechanism allows citizens to trigger judicial review on environmental degradation, corruption, and human rights violations. India cannot be defeated not because of its sheer population, military strength, or economic growth, but because of something far more powerful, its mindset. A mindset shaped by centuries of resilience, rooted in diversity, and driven by purpose. This is a nation where innovation meets tradition, where every challenge is met with adaptation, and where unity is forged not in sameness, but in differences. The West may have technology, wealth, and systems, but India has soul, grit, and a deeply held belief that its best days are always ahead. From the villages to the startups, from the students to the scientists, India's people carry an unshakable spirit. And that spirit, resilient, hopeful, and unstoppable, is what makes India unconquerable. India doesn't just survive, it leads. Not by dominating, but by inspiring. That's why India is the one country the West can't defeat,